Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome to my deep dive series, where I, MS Arthadian, dive into alternative tabletop role-playing games much like Reborn in Power, and what sets them apart from the TTRPG behemoth, Dungeons & Dragons. This series is an exploration into systems and settings that make up epic stories to be told. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Welcome to Arthadian Anthologies and my new deep dive series where I'm exploring upcoming indie small press tabletop role-playing games and what they have to offer. Today, I'm super excited to have two creators, Andi and Nathan. Andi is the COO of QuasiReal Publishing, and Nathan is the lead game designer and DM of the Sanity Damage podcast, and they are here to talk with me about Mythcraft. So, before we get started on the deeper intricacies of this new system, Mythcraft, can the two of you give me a rundown of the origin story behind this creative venture you've been working on?
Yeah, Andi, do you want to take that? Or?
I'll start a little bit, and then I'm going to let Nathan dive into that. So Nathan started on this a little bit before I did. I was brought in a little bit after. But Mythcraft came around, and has been coming around for a while, from our CEO, Grant. Mm-hmm. So Grant also runs the Homebrew Network, where he has his podcast, The Homebrew, and that's where Sanity Damage is, and the two shows I'm on. Mm-hmm. And he's really been creating and storytelling on that and has been wanting to write his own system for a very long time. Mm. So he's always wanted to do that, and then with everything that happened with Wizards of the Coast, it kind of just upped the timeline.
Yep.
It felt like a really good time to really get this started. And Nathan, I know you have a little bit of a different experience with it getting started.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing role-playing games most of my life, and I actually have designed 2 role-playing games already, just that I played with my friends in high school. Yeah. They were poorly balanced, but we had a lot of fun with them. And so, like, I've always enjoyed game design and like creating stories through specific rules and mechanics. So I'm also a novel writer professionally by education, and so pairing that fiction storytelling aspect of my education with my passion for games and game design, the QuasiReal Publishing and the idea of Mythcraft, everything just lined up so well. So I'm really excited to be a part of that and be kind of in the forefront of figuring out all of the rules and mechanics for it.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Honestly, when I got into TTRPGs, it was like a light in a tunnel kind of thing where I had this whole idea in my head, this whole concept of a universe brewing in my head. I've been writing since I was a kid, and then when TTRPGs were introduced to me, I didn't quite enter into the best one. I went into 4E right away, and my DM was kind of difficult. He didn't really let me explore too many things, and when I did try to explore things, he kind of shut me down, and I was just like, eh. And then we got the Star Wars RPG. My buddy got the Star Wars RPG, Fantasy Flight Games, and then we just started exploring the universe, and I love Star Wars, I love science fiction, I love like all that stuff. And then I was like, I have an entire universe that I can create something with, and I started working on games, and then 9 years later, I have this whole thing, and I realized that sometimes, you know, it's hard to do it on your own, but you guys have a team of people. How is that going? Do you have like a full on vision when it comes to like Mythcraft, like having a vision board of how everyone is working on the game itself? Because I feel like sometimes when I would work with other people on my game, it like, you know, creative minds sometimes butt heads about what they want.
Yes. I I'll start, and then Andy can flesh out whatever I miss.
Yeah.
But we have an awesome team of like thinkers and writers, and so I'm again, I'm the lead game designer, so I will basically set up a bunch of like outlines or skeleton documents, and then ask people to fill them in, and then I'll go through and figure out what seems balanced and what doesn't, and we'll talk back and forth about ideas. A lot of times that does lead to butting heads, and so Andy can attest, she's usually the observer in lengthy arguments that lead to really, really awesome mechanics after a lengthy argument. You know, like I and other designers will come at it from opposite sides of the problem that we're trying to represent with like a mechanic, and we will talk around each other, talk to each other, talk past each other sometimes, and eventually we will arrive at something that just feels really, really fantastic. But it's because of that process, like having people that have different ideas that allow the best ideas to really come to the surface.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is that this whole thing, as it's been designed, has always been a team thing. So there's always been multiple minds working on it, where sometimes if it's your own thing and then you try to bring other people in, it's a little bit more difficult because you have your vision. But with this, it's always been a group vision. It's always been there's no bad ideas. That doesn't mean every idea is going to get through, but we make sure that everybody can put out ideas. What do you think? And then we pick the best ones. And yeah, there's lots of disagreements. I think that's part of the best part. Nathan and Grant both have been in the TTRPG world for a long time.
Yeah.
And they both have different things that they like, that they don't like, things that they've experienced or done in their own games. And it brings about really interesting conversation. And me, myself, I'm super new to this community. I've only been playing for 2 years now. So, like, I started and I dove right in, and now I'm in deep.
Very deep,
so
very deep.
I always have that outside perspective. Very deep. I always have that outside perspective of I'm still a new player. So, like, there's some things that I can give a perspective on, like, okay, you get this because you've been doing it for over a decade. I don't, because I've been doing this for 2 years. So it gives that... I feel like it gives that well-rounded of, okay, this can be read by somebody who doesn't understand it, as well as somebody who's been playing for years and years and years and years. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Basically, whenever like I have been making my game, I want a mixture. I want a mixture of veteran players and then also new players, so that the new players can see if they can pick it up right off the bat. You know, sometimes they ask questions, and most of the time they actually ask questions and all that stuff. But being able to at least understand and comprehend what is going on in the system, because I mean, being able to play like D&D 5e, that's a good beginner one for people to kind of get into, and then once you get into it, you have a general sense of how these game systems usually work, and then you can kind of branch out to different ones that kind of fit what you like. But then also you have the game systems where, you know, sometimes it's not you're brand new to it, and you're playing something that your friend has made, which is like in my case, like I have friends who come in and like, I don't know what TTRPGs are. They're like, okay, come and play my game, and then they start playing it, and they like it, but they don't realize that there's like a full universe of different types of games out there, and just the mechanics behind everything. It's crazy, and how everything works together. It's a full-on roller coaster going into your brain constantly, trying to figure out what you're going to do in certain scenarios, and then just like, you know, being able to kind of think and do those things. And I love tabletop RPGs because of that. But onto the actual topic at hand, Mythcraft. From what I've seen of it so far, from what I've read and checked out, it is actually really similar to kind of how I have developed my own TTRPG, Reborn in Power. It's mainly because I'm a huge fan of character creation. Like it's literally why I built my system in the first place. Is like I wanted like a character, like just character creation. And it seems like you guys are going like the same route. I'm curious about how Mythcraft allows players to make their decisions, especially on each level up. Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys have like 30 levels in Mythcraft?
We do,
Correct.
yeah. Yeah, and one of the big things that we're going for with Mythcraft is, as you were alluding to, it's player agency and player decision-making with how they level their characters up. So every single level will bring at least 2 choices to the player for what they want to do as they level their character up.
2 choices per level?
Yeah, and
Per level, right.
Yep.
So at every level, you're going to get an attribute point that you can assign to one of your 8 attributes, and those will be like strength, intelligence, charisma, kind of your standard set of what you can do.
Okay.
Additionally, every level you get a talent point, and you are able to put assign your talent point to unlock different talents, which feats and talents, kind of the same language in a lot of different games, depending on what you're playing. But it's things that your character gets to do, whether that's an active ability or a passive bonus built into your mechanics.
Is there a max on the attributes or on these talents? Like, is there a max?
So
yeah, go ahead.
And Andy, cut in whenever you want to. But each okay, each attribute goes on a scale from -3 up to 12, and so the average humanoid and the average capability for someone to do something is a 0, and so you at first level get 5 attribute points to assign throughout your different abilities, and then gradually over the course of different leveling up processes, by the time you hit level 30, you'll have a total of 34 attribute points. So 2 of your stats can be completely maxed out, and you can get pretty close on a third one. Or you could go kind of halfway with most of your different attributes.
That's interesting, because in my system, I have a D12 system, and it is I base my system around 12, like the number 12. So like max level is 12. The max attribute is 12, so it's like it's similar, but then also you guys run on a D20 system too. Do you add when you do like a check? Do you add the base attribute itself, or is there like a modifier type thing?
Yeah, it would be the base attribute. So you'll have a -3 to a +12.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And one thing within all the attributes is there's also going to be associated skills. And that's some of what comes from those talents that you can take if you want to build those ways. So you'll have just like your normal strength attribute. But you can also specialize in like an acrobatics type thing, or a pushing type thing, or a strength type skill. Same thing with intelligence. You have your intelligence stat, but you can have additional points in like history or politics. So you might only have a +2 in your intelligence, but you can have all the way up to a +10 in history if you really want to specialize in history.
You guys have a politics skill?
So you can really yes.
I was like,
there's a huge skill system
interesting,
that's going to be built so that you can have your character really specialize in certain things. And that also ties into, which Nathan hasn't mentioned yet, the occupations and professions that also go along with your character. In our game, characters at level 1 do not start as a class. They just start as an adventurer. You're not a cleric. You're not a berserker. You're not a rogue. You are just an adventurer.
Interesting.
You don't get your class until level 2.
Yeah.
So you got to establish yourself first.
Right.
Yeah. And the one thing you do get at level 1 is that occupation or that profession. And that's a whole other leveling up system that levels up along with you. Instead of giving something every level, it's every, I think, like 4 or 5, right, Nathan?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
And that's something that for people who really like that, for example, they can start in a political type occupation, and by the time they're a level 25 adventurer, they might be a monarch. They might own an entire city. So there's leveling up. So you might have that along with your intelligence skills in politics and persuasion or deception, depending on what kind of leader you want to be.
Right.
And it really allows for you to ingrain like your background, what your character is about, and kind of build it along with you. Unlike some other TTRPGs where like you're just like, I was a cook in my past life, but that doesn't matter now. like maybe it gives me a little bit of a buff where like I can find foods easier, but like in our system, you'll be able to actually level up along with a cooking profession to maybe potentially be able to give buffs or something like that.
So would you say like
there's a whole lot to character creation?
Would you say that the occupation, like the occupations and backgrounds, is kind of like a linear like class system? Well, I mean, it's not necessarily your class, but it's like a linear system where kind of like how D&D 5e classes work, where you get certain features at certain levels as you're leveling up.
Yeah, it would be very, very similar to that.
Okay.
And it would be up to the MC, is which we're calling the game master, of really how much that's ingrained. So like if it's a game where you have a lot of downtime and you're building these things, the MC might say, okay, you level up in your profession. So it's not at set points.
Oh, okay.
It's really up of how much it's involved in your game.
Yeah.
And you can switch professions at some point. So if you start in one, but then you pick up cooking and you want to be a chef and you start cooking in different towns and making a name for yourself, your MC might be like, okay, you gain a level in this profession instead.
Right. There's other instances where some professions might allow you to branch into other professions. So, for example, if you're a historian and you study a lot of political history, then you might also become a politician.
That's pretty interesting. That's really cool, and it gives you like the chance to be able to if you're the MC, the Mythcrafter, in a sense, it gives you the chance to like let your players. Like your players are actually like helping you with developing story because of their actual backgrounds and occupations. Because when you're when you're behind the screen, what you want from your players is them to be able to establish a backstory so that it could help you with incorporating them into the overarching narrative of what you're creating. But with this system, it kind of goes a little bit of a level deeper, and it actually helps with making the backstory, like the background and the occupation, be a part of the advancement of the character. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about our backgrounds. I feel like it really rewards role playing and kind of the social aspect of the game.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and the nice thing is, we are well aware that's not for everybody. Some people are not into the heavy role play stuff and the background stuff. So the nice thing is, all of the occupations, they make a difference if you use them, but they're not like game breaking.
They're not necessary.
If there's a table,
interesting,
right? If there's a table that's really just not interested in that kind of thing, if they decide not to ever level up their profession, it's not going to change their enjoyment of the game.
That's good.
Yeah. I'd like to circle back on something we brushed on a little bit a few minutes ago.
Yeah, of course.
So the skill points and how Andy was saying, like, you might have you might have like a +2 intelligence, but a +5 history. So you'd have like a +7 overall by adding those together. There are, I don't actually have the number off the top of my head, but there's something like 40 skills.
Oh, wow.
Sounds overwhelming at first, and certainly could become overwhelming. But the nice thing is, as a Mythcrafter or as an MC, as the game master, you would only ever ask your players for one of 7 different types of skill checks. And then, so for example, I might ask Andy. Let's say Andy is playing a berserker. Andy, I need you to make a strength check to lift that boulder. And Andy would say, okay, I'll make a strength check, but I have the skill lifting, so can I apply that modifier? And so then it's up to the player to remember, like, these are the skills that I have. These are the skills I need to worry about and pay attention to.
Yeah.
As a Mythcrafter, I just have to ask, like, make an intelligence check, make a charisma check. So it streamlines the process for the Mythcrafter while also rewarding the player for really playing into their specialties.
Yeah. That just reminds me of like some of the systems that I've made, because it like, so I have like skills, feats, and abilities, And basically whenever there's a check, a specific skill might say, like, when you roll an acrobatics check, you can add this extra die to the roll, and then you spend your stamina and you get that die because it's a physical skill that you're using. Or like a feat is like, it gives you an extra bonus to a specific check, and it gives you like certain things, and those things are like, they're modular little mechanics as you're leveling up. So you get those things as you level up, and the player gets to choose like which ones they want out of all the many different ones that there are. Yeah. But
very similar concept.
Yeah.
Right. More agency to the players. Let them choose what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Always a good thing.
And I love that. It's making me want to make a character now in Mythcraft. So my next question is, how long does character creation process take, like, so far from what you have? And could you actually run me through, like, making a first level character? Like, what's the first thing that you would choose, and then like all the extra stuff behind it?
Yeah, I don't have a great sense how long it would take to make a first level character, partially because I've made the system and I've been doing role playing games for so long that to me it's kind of formulaic when I'm the one who's writing the abilities.
Yeah.
I would guess a first level character, if you want to get really in depth and think through all of the decisions really carefully, it'd probably be an hour or two. I don't know. Andy, does that feel right for what we've kind of talked about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, like Nathan said, exactly how formulaic. If you're the type of person, I have some friends that are like this, that are very math number crunchy. Like, I'm going to plan out levels 1 through 10 right now, spreadsheets, numbers. Like, if you're getting into that, like, then it's going to take some time, because there's so many different varieties. One thing that we have is, at the beginning you get so many skill attribute points, but there is a cap that you can hit. So you can't just put all 5 in one. You can only hit half your level plus 1. And we round up in Mythcraft. So at level 1, and 2, your cap is 2. So you can have a 2 and a 1. You could have 5 1s. So it's really, there's a lot of combinations you can do, and that's going to be really fun for a lot of the math people. So if you're like me, where I'm just like, this sounds good, it doesn't take that long. And we're going to have like suggested paths. We're going to have pre-built. So for people where a lot of choice is overwhelming, like, we're going to say, like, hey, if this is the type of character you want to go, this is a really good talent for that. Or this is a really good path for you to go on. So yeah, I mean, it can take anywhere from, I'd say, like 10-15 minutes if you're just a person where you're, that sounds cool, let's do this. Or it could take up to a couple hours if you're like, I really want to crunch all my numbers and see how all of these things overlap and stack and how it's going to build to be that character. We also have really seamless multi-classing when we get there.
Ooh, okay. That's one of my questions.
There's a lot of different combinations you could do. So that's what I'm saying. It could take up to a couple hours, because if you're trying to plan that far ahead, you'd try to say, okay, I want to do these 2 classes and I want to do these talents in these classes. Like, it can start to compound and add time pretty quickly, depending on how in depth you want to get.
I really like diving into different characters. What I usually tell players when they're coming in, I'm like, okay, what you should do is just come up with a character concept in mind. It doesn't have to be super crazy, but then you can mold the character based off of that concept. So if you want to be like a mage who had their family killed in a fire or something like that, Caleb from Critical Role, and you can kind of make a character based off of that backstory, and we'll figure that out as we go along the character creation process. And so that's usually why I tell, like, my players whenever I'm introducing them to my system, is come up with a character concept first, so that we can mold the character based off of that. And then if you want to change how they are later on as they're progressing through the game, then you change how they are as you're progressing through the game, because it's customizable and you can just do whatever you want. But yeah, that
absolutely. And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but that is
no, I was just gonna say
the Discord lag is going on here.
Discord, yes. You go.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say that the whole system of just creating a character and being able to actually choose your path throughout it, being able to, like, as a player, it is one of the best things, because we, as we're living through life, we're making our own decisions and we're doing our own things. And if you're in a fantasy world, you want to have as many choices as you want, because you're going to be able to explore all the different facets that is there, and there's so much to choose from. And this is why customization is such a big part of tabletop RPGs.
Absolutely. And that's something, whenever I'm not the type of person that plays a character, I'm not a min-maxer, I'm not trying to get the best out of my character. I level up and choose things for my characters in TTRPGs based off of what's happening in the game.
Yeah. That's good.
I love when narrative decisions kind of inform that.
Too.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard when you level up and in some TTRPGs it feels super punishing to make a choice that's not ideal. In others, there's just not a lot of customization at a certain point, so it's just okay, I'd really like to do this, I'd really like to multi-class, but to get what I'm going for, that's 4 levels away in that multi-class, which is not that, who knows how long that's going to be an actual time of play, depending on how fast your game goes, that could be a year. I know, in some of my home games, we hit level 5 after a year of playing. So, there's having to wait that long to, okay, I'd really like to go into a bard type class, but it's going to take me another year of play to get to do what I want to do. Yeah, we really wanted to have a system where, there's more levels, so an MC can level up faster.
Okay.
And not only that, there are choices and there are availabilities every single level for you to get something new. So it's not going to feel like it's a very long time to get that thing you want to get, because the next level you could just be all right, I'm going to take that other class. Why not? Because I know the next level I'll get another thing. I don't have to wait X number of levels to get my special feature or whatever it is.
Right.
How does one level up in Mythcraft?
In terms of XP milestone?
Yeah,
is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Sorry, should have elaborated a little bit more.
Yeah, that's actually something we haven't made any solid decision on yet. So we're still trying to figure out the core mechanics of each class and play testing different mechanics on that end. So
can I tell you how I did it inside Reborn in Power?
Absolutely.
So how I wanted to give players literally all the decisions. So I get there's chosen points, which is my XP inside Reborn in Power, and you actually have to spend CP to level up. So as you're getting CP, you spend it where you want to spend it throughout, and you decide when you want to level up. So you can decide to rank up skills and do stuff and focus on that, or you could decide to level up so that you can get more access to more stuff as you're getting more and more powerful. And
nice.
That
cool.
I think is it's really fun to see how players actually decide when they want to level up. And it also I also warn them. I'm like, if you decide to stay level 1 forever, it's not going to be a good time.
Right. No, that's a great way to do it. I generally, as a dungeon master or game master, I usually don't like XP just because it's one more number to track.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use XP, that's a fantastic way to do it. Use it as a meta currency. I love that.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of people on our team are milestone type players.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us are very narrative play type people, and a lot of what Mythcraft was designed around was to allow for a lot more narrative play in all aspects. So yeah, we haven't made any final decisions on that, but I will say a lot of the team is very much on the side of leveling along with what's going on in the story, more so than a number.
Yeah, I feel like Milestone has become way more popular, like way more popular now than any other like leveling system. I would say because of the narrative structure and how more games. I feel like if we were to poll the TTRPG community, like at like the entire community, I feel like more people are more roleplay oriented than they are like other stuff, or it's kind of shifted that way throughout the past the past few decades.
I mean, role-playing games originated.
I feel like
probably in large part because of that, right? Because they originated basically as war games, or like and that dynamic has moved a lot since their inception.
So another question I have is for Mythcrafters, the MCs. We know that usually like DMs, GMs, and all that stuff, when they're running games, sometimes they want to homebrew their own little creature or something like that. In Mythcraft, is there going to be like homebrew like templates or ways to create new content in the system?
Definitely. That's something Grant and I are both very passionate about. Prior to the OGL debacle, I used to be a third-party content writer for D&D, and so I really enjoy the aspect of the game where other people who aren't like officially part of the head team for a game can still contribute to the game in some way. Like that's very important to me. I think that's important to everyone on the Mythcraft team. Grant has written up a little template that he calls Mythcraft Monster Math, which is something that a Mythcrafter could use to design their own monster to calibrate it.
Good alliteration there. That's good.
Yeah, right. It's catchy. So you can use that to figure out like how many actions a monster should be able to take, how powerful they should be in comparison to different character levels.
Yeah, and one thing, we don't only support people creating their own stuff. We actually really want people to. We are fully supportive of it. We don't know what's going to come with the new orc license, but we plan either way to have a fully very open gaming license. We want people to be able to build off of Mythcraft, make their own monsters, make their own adventures, make their own settings. We want to see those supplements come out. We want people to really make this their own. So as Nathan said, him and Grant are very passionate about this. So there are plans in the future for lots of different tools for people to use if they want to create anything, homebrew anything in the Mythcraft system.
That's actually a very big thing for me when it comes to. I'm kind of doing the same. I actually have like homebrew templates for all the different things that you could design because my game is very modular. I call it the Lego set of TTRPGs. So you could like pick, I love that. You can pick and choose different things. And you don't you don't have to create an entire class for something. You just can create one little thing and be like, okay, lore master, which is like what I call my GMs and stuff. Like lore master, can I have this thing? And then they can be like, okay, let's balance it out a little bit better, and then you're good to go. You can use it, and then a player can just use something that they created. Or crafting gear inside of it is easy. And also the thing that I want to do is I want to take my universe that I've created and start taking like regions inside the universe, and then build a setting, like take that setting and build it into other systems. So like one would be in Mythcraft or something like that, and then I'd have like a full setting. and then like let people let players kind of explore that setting, and then also like tie it into the lore behind like my universe and all that stuff. And like that's something I plan on doing, is going into like all these different TTRPG systems and seeing if I can like really expand out and build like new worlds and new things for people to explore. And that's just my goal in life, is just to let people explore everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
the more
that's
of it,
absolutely along the lines we want.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the more that there's like a two-way street between the creators of the game and the like fan base and third-party creators, then the richer the community is as a whole for that.
Yeah, and I honestly see the TTRPG like community, instead of it being like a competition between different game systems and all that stuff. Like D&D sees, like Wizards of the Coast sees it kind of like that, and like because of Hasbro and all that stuff. But I feel like the overall TTRPG community is more collaborative than competitive itself.
Yeah,
I feel like that needs to be at the forefront of the conversation. It needs to be, hey, let's take our settings and then incorporate it into other systems, so that it's like we're kind of double dipping into like and letting people kind of pick and choose which system they want to be in and which setting they want to be in, and then you could just choose which one, and then like try different ones out. And it's like, if someone would like Star Wars, for instance, and then you could have Star Wars in all these different settings, and then all these different systems, and then pick the one that you want, you like the best, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never done that yet, but I've had a dream for a long time of running different role-playing game systems in different official D&D worlds. So Eberron is one that I really love. I want to run games set in Eberron, but using non-D&D mechanics to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be so interesting, because then you can test out mechanics that normally you probably wouldn't use inside that world, but then there might be some cool ways to actually incorporate like new possibilities inside that world because of certain mechanics happening.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the biggest topic we're going to go over now is the action point system, because that's that's one of the things that I'm very curious about. So can you elaborate on this action point system for how combat works and all that?
Sure. So I will. Well, Andy, do you think it's better to start with like specific examples or top-down explanation of the concept? Because I've tried it from both angles. I'm not sure which way is easier to express.
Probably top-down first, and then give the specifics.
Okay. So action points are a representation of how much you can do as a character on your turn. You can spend action points to move, to make attacks, to cast spells, to interact with the world around you. It replaces like movement being a separate thing. It replaces bonus or swift or minor actions, whatever you want to call those. It even replaces reactions or actions you would take on like an enemy's turn or whatever that might look like. And so each player character just has a set number of action points they can spend over the course of their turn. Sometimes they can spend it reactively if they have different abilities that let them do that. And then at the start of each of their next turns, they regain the set number of action points that they get as a character. And that number changes based on your build. It might change based on certain features that you have that your class gives you or something like that.
So is it kind of like Divinity? Like the
video game?
Yeah, the video game, yeah.
I'm sorry, you're asking the wrong person.
It's similar.
Okay.
I know Grant it's one of his favorite games.
Yeah.
So yeah, how it works is I'll give the specific example. Say you're playing a character like a rogue.
Okay.
And your rogue has 5 action points. So in combat, they might take 2 action points to move. So move twice, because movement in our game takes 1 action point. Okay. So I move 20 feet, use an action point. I move another 20 feet, use an action point. So that leaves me with 3. So with those 3, I might choose, okay, I'm going to do an attack. An attack with a dagger for me costs 2. So now I'm down to 1 point.
Okay.
So I can use that point to move again.
Move again, yeah.
I might have another talent or something that I can do with that 1. Or I can say, you know what? I'm going to hold on to this. And I'm going to hold on to that 1 point. So if I don't use that point throughout the round, my next turn, it gets added. So instead of starting with 5, I start with 6.
Okay. I like that.
So that gives me the opportunity a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some classes that are built very reactionary. So you might have a class that's more of a defender type that, okay, I have 5 points. I'm going to spend 2 to move up next to my ally. And then I'm going to just end my turn there. But I have reactions that I can take. Maybe it's 1 action point to give tactical disadvantage on an attack against my ally that's right next to me. Mm-hmm. So if somebody goes to attack my ally, I'm going to use 1 point to give that person tactical disadvantage. Or maybe I give my ally tactical advantage when they attack. So it's the idea of, instead of, okay, it's my turn, I do my things, my turn is done, now I'm going to space out for the rest of the round until it's my turn again. It brings it in a lot more engaging, because instead of it being, okay, these 5 points are for me to just use right now, it's these 5 points are spread across this whole round and can even bleed into next round if I carry them over.
All right.
So it sounds a lot more complicated, but after you play through it once, it's very intuitive, because it's very, very much tracking of, okay, I have 4, I go down to 1. Okay, that adds up to 5 now. I have 5, I spend all 5, I'm at 0, so next turn I'm back to 4. Like,
trust me, that's more.
That's very, very intuitive once you get through it.
That is a lot easier than what my combat system is like. But I did have a question about that. Is there a limit to how many action points you could have?
Yes. I believe the maximum is 9 action points, unless you have some like class feature that lets you break that limit. So every character would start with 3, and then you get additional action points based on your coordination attribute, which is one of the main attributes that affect all of your skills and kind of core mechanics of your character. Mm-hmm. So for every 2 points you have in coordination, you would get another attribute point. Given that each attribute goes up to a maximum of 12, once you have a 12 coordination, that's plus 6 action points for you. So you would have 9 action points every round. Also, you have a limit of how many action points you can carry over to your next turn, because otherwise there probably are ways to exploit it somehow. You know, hide behind your friend with a tower shield and just wait for 3 turns.
Yeah, wait, like you just have so many action points that you could just start doing too many things on your turn.
Defying the laws of time. Yeah. So you're restricted to not holding more than half your level plus 1 action points per round. So we actually use that same mechanic both for your maximum attribute score and for how many action points you can hold over. So at first and second level, none of your attributes can be higher than a plus 2, and you can't hold over more than 2 action points on a given turn.
Okay, that's interesting. So are there, like, when it comes to the specific things that you could do on your turn inside in game, like, is there a high? How am I going to explain this? Is there like a max amount of action points for like a specific skill that can be done? Like let's say like you're casting like a level 9 spell or something like that. How many action points would that take? Like, would it like take all of your action points for the entire round?
Yeah, so it would depend on the spell or on the weapon. If I can, I'll actually start with weapons because that's an easier, faster illustration. So Andy mentioned the rogue with the dagger. It takes 2 action points to stab with a dagger. Let's say the rogue goes for like a strength build instead, and they fight with a greatsword. It takes for the purpose of the example, we'll say it takes 6 action points just to swing the greatsword one time because it's so much heavier and bulkier. So if the rogue only has 5 action points, they can only attack with their greatsword if they reserve action points. Yeah,
they have to they have to get ready for it.
Right, but in order to counteract that, because obviously that makes greatswords pretty restrictive and not very useful. Different types of equipment will be more effective based on your attributes. So in the case of the greatsword, it might say something like, it takes 6 action points to swing this, but you can subtract your strength from that number of action points down to a minimum of 2 or 3. So eventually you could get really good at swinging the greatsword multiple times on one turn.
That's cool. I really like that. Because it allows basically any character to be able to wield like gear. That's something that I've never really liked about D&D 5e is that you just you not every character can wield certain pieces of gear, and it's like just give them access, but then do some restrictions about certain things, but like still give them access to be able to wield those pieces of gear. And this is like the same. Like it's the same kind of concept where it's not the same concept. It's the what you guys are doing is actually like giving anyone the possibility of wielding certain things because the action points allow you to, as long as you're holding back and doing like not spending them on your turn so that you can spend them to do a bigger swing. Is there like when it comes to like rolling for damage, is there like a base damage for like how does damage work? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, at this point we're following kind of the pretty typical D&D Pathfinder fantasy role-playing game, like tables of damage. Different weapons do different damage types, and you can increase the amount of damage you do through investing in different talents, through growing stronger so that you can use larger swords or larger axes. So yeah, as we play through different options, we may come up with something a little bit more unique, but right now it's going to look pretty similar to a lot of other D20 or Frontier role-playing game systems with that same kind of damage is based on the item you're using, but there will be other ways to modify it, is kind of where we're at right now.
Interesting.
And to follow back with your question on spells, we actually, for something as big as a really high-level spell, it will actually take you multiple turns to cast.
Yes.
So we're having something called conjuring, where you may have to focus a minimum of 3 action points per turn until you hit like 15 or you hit 20. Like the cost of a spell might be 20 action points and require you to spend a minimum of 3 per turn to get there. So you can spend 5 in a turn and get there in 4 turns, or you can spend less.
That's cool.
But you have to focus on calling like this big spell, and there's not gonna be a lot of spells that are like that, but I'm talking like big,
like meteor
spell.
Storm kind of thing.
The classic destructive ones, right?
So it's not gonna be like in D&D where it's just like meteor swarm. Okay, it happens. Like, I just destroyed a town in 6 seconds. It's going to be, when there's those big types of spells, you're going to have to make sure you're positioned correctly. Your team might have to work to help protect you so you can focus for 4 rounds to get that off. So there's going to be a lot more. Some of those spells are going to be a lot more. You have to really, really prepare them. You don't just get them easy to be able to cast them, no problem.
I like that. I really like that. Damn, I want to play now. Gosh. So with that, is there a you would say that this, I would say this is more like a complex system, but also it's not that complex. Honestly, I feel like it's very intuitive. Like you just have a certain amount of points, and then you spend them based off of whatever something specifies for you to spend, right? And that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you describe it that way. Like, that's exactly what we're going for. We want it to be approachable, but we, low floor, high ceiling, right? We want anyone to be able to come in and learn it. And we want veteran gamers that have been around for like 3.5 and Pathfinder and whatever, the more crunchy systems, we want them to get enjoyment and entertainment out of this system too.
That's because for Reborn in Power, what I've been wanting to do is like create different types of combat systems so you could pick and choose which combat system you enjoy the most. And like, I've never really thought about like how I could do action points, because my system has already been kind of like established with like stamina and energy, and you have like those kinds of pools that you choose from, and then the energy, like, and you basically you use abilities with energy, and then you use skills with like stamina and all that stuff. But that becomes number crunchy. So then, because it's so number crunchy, I end up being like, okay, how can I make this simpler? And I've always thought about like action points and how, like, because I've seen how my brother plays Divinity, and there's that action point system. I always thought like that's a pretty cool system, and you guys have done it. And I'm like, now I need to make my own universe and make Mythcraft content. I'd be like, hey, come play this game. Gosh, that is really cool. That's really cool. I really want to play it now. Do you guys have a
soon?
Yeah. Do you guys have like a roadmap for when you plan on doing things? Like, are you doing open playtest kind of thing for the system?
Yeah, we do. Go ahead.
You know the dates. You're magic with dates. I'm like, I think it's this. So you
okay. So let me see if I can get this. We're doing internal playtesting right now. Mm-hmm. Our Kickstarter launches at the time of recording this with you. It launches in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. That'll be March 15th. And then, assuming we meet funding and we're working on the project, we will open it up to anyone who has backed the project for initial like beta playtesting. Okay. And that will open in July. I can't remember what time in July, but sometime in July. Okay. And then we'll take the feedback, we'll work on balancing everything out, and it'll come to the public in January of 2024.
Nice. Very nice. Wow, that's great.
The nice thing, along with the Kickstarter, there will be a demo if people want to try a little bit of it to see what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got.
But yeah, go ahead.
We've got 4 level 2 characters and 3 monster stat blocks, and so you can just kind of play around with those and get a feel for how the system works.
But yeah, we hope to have anybody that backs the Kickstarter is going to be invited to do external playtesting and give us their feedback as we're doing the finalization of the system.
That's great. I'm definitely going to be a part of those people. So,
all right, good to hear.
I really want to try it out. And also, do you guys know? Wait, so you have? I believe you said you have 13 classes, right? Or
11.
11. But I'm sure there will be more later on.
Yeah, definitely later on. I mean, if we do really well and hit a bunch of stretch goals, there will be up to 27 classes. Mm-hmm. If we don't hit all of those goals initially, then we'll just release them later on.
Okay. So I want to move on to if you will allow me to enjoy my world building and storytelling love for just fictional and fantasy and sci-fi worlds and stuff. I want to know more about the setting of Mythcraft.
Yeah.
This is all Nathan.
Yeah, this is my happy place. This is my happy question.
Cool.
So we have developed we've developed lore that spans about 15,000 years across a solar system, and the main planet in the system is called Ansera. That's the world where most of the adventures and where our focus is in developing it. So across those 15,000 years, there are 4 distinct super eons, which have dramatically different landscapes due to a combination of, plate tectonics, but also magic and giants and meteors smashing into the world and altering the geology of it. So we've got like 4 distinct different settings across the same world, and those will start at the very at the outset of our Kickstarter. We're focusing actually on the second super eon because that's the one that has magic like pouring forth into the world for the first time. And so it's going to feel the most familiar to like fantasy role-playing game people who enjoy that. So we're starting there, but the chronologically, the first setting is like an ancient prehistoric setting with massive like dinosaurs and kaiju and no magic. So you've got to survive that world without your meteor storm and without all of the different things that you might use to survive such a deadly setting. And then, moving back to the second super eon, we've got your classic sword and board, your classic, epic fantasy, like sagas. We move into more of a steampunky era and then into more of a modern era. And that eventually brings about the third super eon, which is post-apocalyptic. The world, global infrastructure collapses, and then different planar entities mess up the world in different ways. There's like eldritch horrors that are scouring the world, and there's radiation that causes zombie outbreaks, and whatever else you can think of with like the words post-apocalyptic, like it's probably there. So the remnant of like peoples that manage to survive that get to experience the fourth super eon toward the end of the timeline, which is where the I've got to pick my words carefully because Grant's going to come after me for spoiling things. I will say the fourth super eon is sci-fi, and it's focused on exploring like a much larger galaxy than just the one planet and the moons orbiting the planet.
That's where I'll be.
Yeah. You mentioned the Star Wars game earlier. I haven't played the did you say the Fantasy Flight one?
Yeah, the Fantasy Flight games. That's the one. I actually molded Reborn in Power kind of based off of that system. That one and nice. And 5e, like they're it's mostly based off of Fantasy Flight games though. Like that.
Yeah.
I love that system.
Yeah. Nice.
But what were you going to say about it?
Oh, I was going to say I've played I've played a different Star Wars system. I played the one that Wizards of the Coast put out. But anyway, anything that you might see in those books, like they'll appear in the fourth super eon.
That's really cool. Yeah, so I've had a few writing friends. Actually, one in particular, he has kind of like a similar thing with his world that he's created, where he kind of splits up his stories into different eons, like different like time periods and stuff. And it's actually really funny that your world kind of is around like 15,000. You said 15,000 years old.
Yes.
And like that's kind of like about the same time. I wouldn't say it's the same, because how my universe works is I have like a universal calendar that is actually it's equivalent to one cycle is equivalent to about 2 years Earth time. So
okay, sure.
Yeah, if you say it's the core realms has been around for 16,000 cycles, then it's been around for like about 32,000 years, kind of thing. But do you have like a specific type of calendar for how do you pronounce it? Ansera?
Ansera, yeah.
Ansera.
At present, we do have a like a universal timeline. That I'm I'm not a historian professionally, but I've taken I have a degree in fiction writing and history, and so I do a lot of pondering over history and timelines, and it always fascinates me when different cultures have different like calendar systems.
Yeah.
That's something I really enjoy, but I recognize like not everyone really enjoys that, and so for the sake of simplicity, we're focusing on one timeline that focuses on a specific event. I will call it the Unity. And before and after the Unity is kind of how we measure time. And I'm not going to say what the Unity is. That's that's a secret.
I know that. I know that exactly. I know that feeling because I have a big event that happened inside my universe called the Core Reset, and it just it reset everything. So no one knows what happened before that kind of thing. So with the lineages, the lineages are you have lineages and classes. The lineages there's a couple of them. There's dragon folk, human, Kleppen, right? Those are the critter folk.
Yeah, Kleppen.
And you have undead. So you can play an undead, halfling, elf, and dwarf. I love my dwarves. My dwarves are my favorite. But do you take from the kind of like the generic fantasy tropes from these, or like have you kind of created like original like style how they came about inside the universe and all that stuff? Like, do you have like an original storyline for each of them, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a mix. So I think that some of the tropes are there for like a reason, right? They've endured because they're really fun, but we also want to do our own thing with them. So there will be things that feel recognizable even if they come about through different like in-world reasons. So I think the elves are a good example. Like they feel pretty similar to a lot of other elves. They're mystical and otherworldly, but our reasoning for that and the way in which they kind of arrive in the world is a little bit more unique to Ansera. It's a concept that I haven't really seen applied to elves before.
Could you dive into it, or is that something that Grant won't want?
I'm weighing everything I say against that. Like,
I think that's one of the ones Grant would ping you on.
Yeah. I started to say some of it in one of our blogs on YouTube, and he was like, I don't know about that. So,
I really like exploring like generic like species that come about and how they can differ. Like for example, inside my universe, humans are actually like they're not called humans, they're called prime because basically on every prime are the natural naturally evolving intelligent species. So there's so many different worlds that eventually, like if not messed with any like higher entities, the prime will like if it's in a habitable zone to be able to like support life, prime would come out of that, and humans would be a subspecies of prime kind of thing. So if like
nice.
if
that's cool.
So that's kind of like how I've envisioned it, because like I was like it's a huge universe, and everyone's not going to be called human. Like there might be like different names for them. So I figured I'd kind of give like a generic like they are the prime, like the prime species, like just evolved naturally. And then like every other species has like different things that are tied to different like entities that come about that like manipulate genetic codes and all that stuff. And there's a lot of cool things about that. But is there a specific lineage inside Mythcraft that you both of you are excited to like for players to explore?
The Kleppen. I'm thrilled for the Kleppen. Yeah, little critter folk like squirrel people, rabbit people, badger people. They're going to be adorable and exciting. I'm really happy to have come up with those.
That's really cool.
I don't care if Grant yells at me. I don't know if we've announced this one yet. We have a troll type race. That's super, super awesome and super adorable. And I'm going to play one as soon as I can. I don't think we've got an official name for them yet. But I know they're just generally based off of like forest trolley type tropes, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Will the lineages have their own like leveling system as they go about like throughout the progression of the character, or is there specific features that they get, or how is that working?
I will spoil humans because I feel like
that's a safe one. That's a safe one.
But the template is going to be the same for all of the different lineages. So at first level, you're just an adventurer, right? You've got your background, you've got your attributes, and you've got your lineage. You get one default feature that everyone in that lineage gets, and then you get to pick one either subspecies or one just generic feature of your choice. So, let's see, like elves, in D&D and in a lot of games, there's different sub races of elf. So that's one where like you might at first level, you just get a core elf feature and you get like a sub lineage feature. But humans are universally human. So you get your human feature, and then you just get to pick one additional feature of your choice from a list of human abilities. And then at every 5 levels thereafter, so level 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, you get one additional feature of your choice from that lineage list of options.
Interesting. So when it comes to, damn it, I want to know more about the undead and like how that's gonna work. But I don't want to like push you guys from saying too much.
Yeah, undead. I'm gonna hang on to that one, but I'll give a little more example from the human perspective. Yeah. So, at level 1 as a human, you get one additional point in one attribute of your choice. That's a little bit vanilla. It's a little bit bland, but like you're a human. You're not an elf or a dwarf or an undead, right? And then different features you might take to exemplify your humanness or your humanity. You might take like determined 1, which is when you drop down to 0 health, you pop back up to 1 health once per day, right? And then later on you might take determined 2, and then you get to do that more frequently. So that's just like a little teaser of some human stuff.
Okay. We haven't gotten into the magic system yet, and that is something I want to get into before. Like I don't know how long you guys can stay, but I'm down to keep going.
Yeah, I'm good.
I want to know more about the magic system. I guess just lay it on me. Well, what is the magic system all about? Like how does magic work inside Mythcraft?
Yeah, Andy, how about I do some lore and you do some mechanics?
You just do it all, because I will be honest, this is one part that I have not dove deep into yet. So
Okay.
You're much more of an expert on this part.
All right. Okay, so magic in Mythcraft is something I've been really excited about because I've had this like idea of magic for a long time, and this is the perfect place for me to finally bring it to fruition. So there are 5 sources of magic, and those are how different people are able to cast spells. So there's a divine source for like your cleric types. There's an arcane source for mages and kind of the more standard like academic magic. There's primal magic for rangers, druids, whatever. There's psionic magic, which obviously is like popular for all of the people who love scions.
Yes, that's me.
There's so we got you covered. And then there's occult magic for kind of the darker, more ritualistic or shady side of maybe like religion or cultic, like eldritch, infernal, whatever else. Like occult is a little bit difficult to pin down. It's just the icky part of magic, right?
Yeah.
And so each of those different 5 sources interact with one another uniquely. So each source is going to be stronger than 2 other sources of magic, but it's going to be weaker than the other 2 sources of magic. So you've got kind of a 5-way rock, paper, scissors going with the magic sources.
Kind of like in Pokemon when you have the different Pokemon types and they all like kind of, fight against each other in certain ways and they're more effective or something like that. Against one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so magic is going to interact with one another in that way. And that's like top level lore stuff, but it will bubble up through the mechanics of the way magic interacts with other magical types as well. At like a more basic like mechanical level, if you're a spellcaster, you have a certain number of spell points per day. There's a lot of points in Mythcraft. There's hit points, attribute points, spell points, death points, lots of points. So, so let's say you're a level 1 witch. You've got 10 spell points, and you can spend those points to cast different spells. So if you're in combat, you can spend like a couple action points and a couple spell points to cast like a necrotic orb at someone, for example. And so the spell point system just allows a little bit more flexibility because you can really curate what kind of spells you want. Like you could have just a couple spells that take up most of your spell points, or you could have you could cast more spells that take fewer of your spell points each time.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of replacing like the leveled spell system that we see in D&D, for example. Each source of magic also comes with 0 level spells or cantrips or spells that don't take up your spell points. Just so that there's always something you can do, right? Because it sucks to be completely out of all of your resources and have nothing to offer. And there's the option to learn rituals, which are limited usually to like once per ritual per day. So if you know 3 rituals, you could cast each one time over the course of the day. Something like that. It'll vary a little bit based on what your source of magic is and what your class is. All of that will inform exactly what you can do. But rituals will take 30 minutes up to like 24 hours to cast, right? Depending on the power of the ritual and what all is involved in doing it.
Will you be able to dive into the different distinct, like basically, will one character be able to dive into the different sources of magic? Like, let's say they want to go into arcane and like psionics. Is that possible to where like you can like dabble in both?
Yeah, we haven't built that out yet. Right now, we're not, just in order to really focus on playtesting and balancing. But that's a concept that I really like, and I would love to see classes that, or not classes specifically, but character builds that explore the dynamics of being able to use multiple sources of magic. So yeah, I think that'd be really cool. We're just not sure from a mechanical standpoint whether that'll be balanced or not.
And we, like I said, we do want seamless multi-classing. So if you want to do one level in Witch that gives you 10 spell points and one level in Cleric that gives you 10 spell points, you can do that and have 20 spell points. The more you spread it out, the less access you have to some of those better spells. But at this time, if you wanted to dabble in between different classes, it's just that's where your talent point goes instead of furthering yourself into the talent points that go along with the class you're in. You start dabbling in a different one. And it's as simple as that. We're getting rid of the like prereqs you need to go into a different class. Like if you are a witch and you really want to be a berserker, you just put a point in berserker your next level up.
Yeah,
it's
a berserker
not like you
witch.
need to have and there might, and I can guarantee there's going to be somebody out that makes some crazy build with that, because
that is
there
me.
is so much fluidity.
For
in
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
I want to hear this.
For example, like when I was making Reborn in Power, something I was always thinking about. What if I could make a robot who was an assassin? So he's like, he has, he's robotic enhancements, and he's an assassin, but he can also dabble in magic, and like all at the same time. So he's a robot mage assassin, and and like that is something cool. Like that would be amazing. Like your enhancements, your cybernetic enhancements, like charge up with the like magical energy, and then are able to like do some crazy spells while you're shooting off like missiles from your shoulder.
Get a space dwarf to carve some runes on your armor, on your like metallic plating.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like some crazy bullshit that just happens. But yeah, that is what I love. So being able to do that and no like real limitations to it. It's just more like how it should be is not making like limitations for things, but giving benefits for you if you do end up going down a certain path.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, fewer sticks and more carrots.
So, which magic source would you two choose out of the 5?
That's tough. I like so many of them. Like,
no matter what I pick, it just always ends up a cult. Like, even if I don't start there, I'll end there. So, like, doesn't matter the system.
I know I would be psionic for sure.
Making a deal with a fiend.
Right. I think. See, I'm between primal and divine. I think I'd have to go divine.
Yeah. Divine would probably be my next bet. Are there gods and a pantheon inside this? I'm sure there are. Like it's fantasy. There must be.
Right. But we've got several different like pantheons we've been building out.
Yeah.
Based on different.
Could you explore any of that, or is that also off limits?
I will. I will say the categories of some of them.
Okay.
We're obviously a little bit more cagey around this right now because that's like big lore stuff. But you've got your kind of typical celestials and fiends. Mm-hmm. You've got some fae, and we're fleshing out the fae, I think, a lot more than a lot of other games do. So there's like elemental fae, there's natural fae, there's emotional fae. Because you see all of those aspects in like fairy lore, and there's a lot of behind the scenes eldritch, like otherworldly horror stuff going on too. So, that's I think that's I'll leave it at that for
now. Yeah, that's fine. I like the world building aspect of TTRPGs because like the system. You can't really do anything unless you have the world. Like you have the system, but like the world is like what allows you to explore all the different aspects of the system.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? So Mythcraft is going to be launching on March 15th. Let's go through the stretch goals specifically for the Kickstarter itself.
Okay. Sure. Andy, do you have that information on hand?
Most of it from memory.
Okay,
so nice. Our stretch goals, there are a variety of stretch goals. And they range pretty far because we don't know. We're hoping this is going to be super successful. So we have lots of different stuff.
I'm sure it's going to be successful. It's amazing already.
Well, thank you.
We have a bunch of different added classes, lineages, professions, occupations to add to the thing. So the initial is 11 classes, 13 lineages, I think is the number.
I think so.
And a chunk, and I don't remember the exact number, I think it's like 14 or 15 backgrounds and occupations. And then we have different stretch goals that are going to add to that. In addition to that, is the additional settings. So one of our stretch goals is going to be the pre-magic setting. One of our stretch goals is going to be the post-apocalyptic setting. And one of our stretch goals is going to be the sci-fi setting. And then classes and lineages that kind of go along with that as well.
In each of these settings, these are going to be like just actual like books, like specifically like setting books to help Mythcrafters kind of explore these
right. So there's going to be lore, probably some maps. There's going to be options for subclasses and lineages that fit more in that setting.
New monsters along with every setting as well.
New monsters, yeah. That like Nathan mentioned in pre-magic, you're probably going to see big dinosaur type monsters, where that's something you probably wouldn't see in sci-fi. Maybe space dinosaurs.
I like space dinosaurs,
but
I like those.
But there's going to be specific stuff towards those settings. We've also already shown on some of our social media. One of our stretch goals is going to be plushies of some of our monsters.
Oh yeah, I saw those.
We showed the adorable land shark baby. We have dice. We have all kinds of material type stuff too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, both unlocking add-ons for people to add and unlocking content as it goes through the stretch goals.
We'll add one of those add-ons is actually the first official Mythcraft novel written by yours truly.
Oh,
so
really?
I would love to hit that stretch goal and then.
Dang, is there like a promotion, like a promotional ad that you can kind of like read off for us about like what the novel might be, or like
there? Yeah, it is. I should know my own novel, honestly.
Or like read the background summary, like the
right. Yeah, let's see. So it's going to be a sword and sorcery novel set in the original campaign setting. So that's the second super eon where magic is first pouring forth into the world. The readers will follow an unlikely group of heroes as they embark upon a journey to unravel a grand mystery woven into the cosmos and the sources of magic.
So it's like going to be an exploration type novel story to basically like fill out the world building through like a novelistic framework. I would say. Right,
precisely. Yeah, a lot of world building, but obviously in the context of a story. So it's not just like a history textbook
of a story like centered around specific characters.
Right.
Yeah. That sounds like fun, and I do enjoy those kinds of stories. Like I love being able to take characters that that I've literally brought to my players and then expand upon them through written format and trying to
definitely
explore certain aspects of the world through the lens of those characters. And that's and then it gives you more ideas too.
Right, yeah, it's kind of like a cycle. They feed into each other.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you guys have a bunch of stretch goals, and I mean, I'm completely out of a lot of all my questions. But is there anything else you guys want to explain about Mythcraft to my audience and to all those out there who are looking to become a part of this whole journey?
I've got one more. This is something that I've been really happy to develop, and that's the dying system.
Ooh, the dying system.
Get happy about that.
Okay. Let's hear that.
Yeah. So, what I don't like is for a player to essentially be out of the game because their character isn't dead, but they're bleeding out on the ground. They wait for 40 minutes for it to be their turn, and then they roll a die to see if they wake up or not. So what we've been building out is a system where once you hit 0 health, you begin dying, but you're not unconscious. And so that allows you the really epic cinematic, Boromir moments where you can go out swinging. You can either manage to just barely pull through and survive by the skin of your teeth, or you just go out saving your friends in a really like dramatic way. So we're having a lot of fun building out exactly how that looks and how it works. But the basic mechanics are you at 0 health, you start gaining death points, and once you hit 8 death points or 9 death points if you're a catfolk, because of 9 lives, then you die.
Well, now I got to be catfolk, huh?
Right.
So then what happens if if someone's like decapitated, like completely just obliterated? Like, do they get death points?
Yeah.
Or is that like?
There's going to be we haven't settled on the exact mechanics, but there will be rules for massive damage, where if you take a ton of damage in one hit, then you just go down, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
But we're not exactly sure how that's going to work right now.
Yeah. I mean, like the other day in D&D when I was playing, my character fell for another time, and being at 0 health, you're just not. You're not having fun when
Right.
there's like 5 other people who are taking so long to take your turn, and you're just gonna roll a death saving throw.
Yeah.
So that is I actually like that mechanic, being able to pop up, have maybe a gun or something, be like, I'm not going out anymore, and just like start firing off shots. It reminds me of like a Call of Duty game when you fall down and you're not completely dead, and you're just still like firing off some shots at people.
Right. Yeah. I haven't played a ton of video games, but I do love Borderlands 2, and I love the fight for your life mode.
Yeah.
So I was inspired by that to some extent.
I mean, you kind of have to get inspired by like some games. I feel like just all the things that we take from all the entertainment, as creatives, we have to we bring it together, because there's no concept is original anymore. Like, it's just pulling concepts from all the different things.
Right.
Like, even when
it's the components that you take and piece together. It's a new jigsaw puzzle from different jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah, like even when you think that you're being original, you're actually not being original.
Yeah. Right. I know.
Yeah. But anything else? Any other aspects of the system? Let's see. Future plans.
I mean, I think we've really hit a lot of the main highlights.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite part of it so far is that mix of the customization, really being able to build and grow the character that you want, and being able to adjust mid-game and not have it feel punishing. And just that idea of it's very friendly for somebody to pick up if they want to, but there's so many options in customization, you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out the best build and cool things to do, and it's not gonna feel boring for those that have been playing TTRPGs for a while, because there's just so many ways you can go with it.
I like that. I think that's a good place to end our little dive into Mythcraft here. But for those who do not know, where can we find Mythcraft? Where can we find you both? And go ahead and plug all your shameless plugs.
Yeah, absolutely. So as for Mythcraft, you can find the Kickstarter, information about the Kickstarter, all that good stuff at just mythcraftrpg.com. So if you go to mythcraftrpg.com, it will bring you to the Kickstarter, and it'll bring you to a page with some more information. You can also find more information on our socials. So a lot of the Mythcraft information goes out from the Homebrew socials, which is just at the Homebrew D&D on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We also have at QuasiReal House, where we do some more specific Mythcraft stuff. So either one of those is a good place to find stuff about Mythcraft specifically. And then you can always join the Homebrew Discord, They have a whole channel there now for Mythcraft Chat, which is where Grant and Nathan actually pull a lot of their questions for the dev blog Q&As. So if anybody has a question about anything, they can dive into the Discord and put it there or on the socials, and I will get it back to them to be answered. So there's a lot of different places where you can find more information about Mythcraft. But yeah, if you want to go to the Kickstarter, it opens March 15th, and that's mythcraftrpg.com.
Yes, and you could sign up there, and I'll also make sure to have all the links in the description of this episode when it goes out. And thank you both for coming on to the podcast. I'm very excited about this.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
This is great. This was great. And for those of you who are out there listening. Thank you all for listening to this new little series I'm going to be putting together to promote these tabletop RPGs. Oh, mouthful. But thank you all for listening. And if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power. Thank you for listening to this dive into Mythcraft. Be sure to check out their Kickstarter campaign. All links can be found in the description of this deep dive. If you like what you are hearing and want to support, you can subscribe at arthadiananthologies.com/subscribe. A link will be found in the show notes below. As always, be safe, stay safe, and if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power.